because I have a feeling they're going to kick me out here, so I just film it first quickly. This is where I am. So I'm here going to another Templar's commandery. Ah, look, it's a reptilian, look. Because the French king, he was right, they are Satanists. Like today, what we see, our political leaders showing the Christ upside down. Well, you can all sort of symbols you can make with that. These guys know what they're doing. It's all pharaonic. They rule the world. It's everywhere. Oh, Boulogne is full of it. Look at it. There we go. Right? There's your dollar. And this is more than 1,000 years old. Oh, you got the dollar here with the all-seeing eye in it. Look at it. Blue for the war and 3 pyramids in it. The Octagon Town for the White House. 3 times the White House. Blokes carrying a rifle. Yeah. Like the Pharaohs. Oh, I don't feel safe here. Pharaoh. Yeah, look, they even look like hieroglyphs. Look at that. Now, what are all these pyramids doing in somebody's backyard here in Switzerland? Oh, that looks quite dark. So here you can see how it's set up. I'm out of here. I don't know. They're coming after me with a big hammer. Oh, I'm out of here. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are.
I'm just showing everyone that I'm a homeless. So I'm just sitting in a McDonald's in Strasbourg here. I mean, that's all I can do,
Yeah.
So here's all my pack, and here, being a homeless, and I'll take off the front sticker, so then you'll see my face. So you have an idea. So here it says here in French here, gourmand. That means someone who likes eating, Yeah. Okay, I'll take off the sticker. I haven't taken it off in, I don't know, in 5 years, so I hope it's not too blurred then, with all the glue on it.
I just love it. You went to your safe place, a secluded place, a place with Wi-Fi, the resources of the modern man. You picked McDonald's.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But
can you see me?
We can see you.
Is it blurred or is it is it okay?
No, it's good and clear.
I don't think it's a good idea to go clean it because it's all sticky all around it.
So
Yeah.
Sean, you are a researcher, and I would say also you're quite warrior-like in the way that you go about doing your investigations. You actually remind me of Richard Hall from Britain. He's about to go through a modern-day book burning right now. But yeah, how does it feel to be on the run? How does it feel to be chased away from your home and made homeless?
Yeah, I'm tired.
Yeah. Just tell us about your journey, and I'm hoping Caleb is going to come in and ask you a few questions as well.
Yeah, well, can you hear me okay, actually?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, well, 9 years ago, I really had to leave Swaziland. Swaziland, I don't even call it Switzerland anymore. I call it Swaziland with SS in the middle. And yeah, they tried to kill me, several attacks on my life. Once I was walking in the forest, and the Swiss police that came running after me, and they shot at me. They tried to liquidate me because Switzerland is the base of everything. It's the base of Pharaoh. And yeah, so I missed my family. I've got my wife in Switzerland, and we're still together. We have 3 children, and yeah, this happens if you're a whistleblower. We all know what happened to Julian Assange. There's a lot of rumors about him, but
I think he's a good guy. You know, I don't believe all the rumors, all the bad rumors. I just don't. It's I mean, I know what it is, you know, to be a whistleblower, and they'll destroy you if you are. Yeah, so I'm very tired. I'm 63 years old now, and I've got a bad limb. I have to carry all that pack. So, and it's not going to be easy, you know, to do the interview here in the McDonald's. So I hope you take account of that. That I could have done it better, you know, and I couldn't even prepare, you know. And I don't have my notes here, you know, like to prepare, but well, let's say I've got it all in my head, and
we're using what we have at hand, man.
I wanna sort of say I've only known about you for a couple months at most. A friend of mine recommended you, and I wanna sort of make a confession here. I've been into researching these kinds of things since 2007, and I always knew that Switzerland was associated with the Templars and the banks, and that it was an important place. But even despite that, up until a couple months ago when I discovered your work, I was still under this delusion of the image of Switzerland, you know, this clean image that they have. It really is like a hypnotic illusion that they have this really nice, smiley facade. And even some of us who are into the conspiracy research, we might still be under that spell, you know, but you really shatter that illusion with what you present, you know.
okay, I'm wearing these shades, you know, for my protection. You know, we're all being controlled. We're all slaves. We all have a slave number and everything, you know. And so I would like to start for you guys with a short introduction, like whom we're dealing with here. So
Go right ahead, man.
yeah, if you think that's a good idea. So first of all, who are the Knights Templars? And well, the Knights Templars, they were all of the nobility, and they were not commoners. They were all of the nobility, because in the aristocracy there is a law which is called the primogeniture, which means that only the firstborn son, he gets everything. He gets the land, the castle, the concubines, the power, everything. But of course, there were also second, third, and fourth sons, and sometimes up to 300. Not always with Mrs. Duchess or Mrs. Countess, of course. But they knew from their mothers that their father was the Duke or the Count and the Lord of the castle, or even the King or the Emperor. So they were very angry. And this is why, because they had to leave with nothing, you know. And this is why there were always conspiracies in the castle. In all the Hollywood movies and other movies, you see this, you know. And this is the only reason for all the conspiracies, like a backstabbing or poisoning with aconite. Aconite is the most poisonous plant in Europe. It's about 1.5 meters high, really beautiful. It looks a bit like digitalis, but it's the most toxic plant in Europe. And there are even rumors now that say that Cleopatra, she killed herself by using that plant. But okay, we'll probably never find out anymore. And so the firstborn son, he kicked them all out, all his brothers and half-brothers. He kicked them all out of the castle because they wanted to kill him, you know, for the to get his place, you know, to be the ruler or the lord of the castle. But where do you go in the Middle Ages? Because in the Middle Ages, there were only three things. There was the castle, the church, and the people. So the castle fell. And an aristocrat is a guy who will never work. So they didn't want to be among the people, because there you would be up to your neck into the big shit every day, working hard. So the only thing left were the monasteries. And a certain moment, you know, accumulated over like a couple of 100 years, there were tens of thousands in these monasteries in France. All these aristocrats without any money, without any power, nothing, without a castle. And they said, we are in a monastery, which is a temple of God. So we are the Templars. And we're going to make a new system that every one of us can be the king for a period of 4, 5, or 7 years. And we're going to vote. Then they said, well, we cannot vote, you know, amongst each other, because we all know what's going on, and that will lead to internal strife again, and conspiracies and killings. And then a sly guy around the round table, he said, oh, I got a good idea. Why don't we let the people vote? Because they're so stupid. They never understand what's going on. And at the same time, we transmit to the people that they're ruling themselves. Then they are pacified, and then they are happy, those stupid commoners. And this new system they called the New World Order. You all probably heard of it. I happen to be the only one in the world who's really explaining what it means. And if, first of all, if there is a new world order, logically there must be an old one, otherwise there wouldn't be a new one, right? Then what is the old world order? Well, the old world order is what we call a vertical rule. It's the feudal system of the king. And the king, he decided from all the way up, all the way down to the last person in the people, amongst the people, giving all the orders without any interference. So, like a dictator, you know, it's a vertical rule. And the New World Order, which is Republican, well, not American Republican, but just the basic meaning of the word Republican, which is a horizontal rule. So in a republic, like most European countries, and America is a republic, you know, there are tens of thousands of people, you know, and they're all aristocrats, and they're all Freemasons on all key positions, and they discuss all the problems, and in the parliament, and in all key positions, you know. So this is a horizontal rule. It's not one person giving all the orders straight down, you know, but there's a whole row of people who are ruling together, and that was the aim of the Knights Templars, of those second, third, fourth sons. So, you know, it's the Republic and the Revolution in France, and then it got exported to America, although the American Revolution was before the French one. But with Marquis de Lafayette, the Frenchies, they gave the Statue of Liberty to America. You know, it was really exported by the Knights Templars in France, who were not being called the Knights Templars anymore, because they were forbidden from 1307 onwards, when they got forbidden and chased by the French king, Philip the Fair. So, as they were all of the aristocracy, and we're still being ruled by the aristocracy in a new system, which is an absolute perfect system, and it's also invisible, because, you know, before we could see we're being ruled by the king or the count or the lord of the castle, but now we don't even know anymore by whom we're being ruled, you know. They really made a perfect system. It's absolutely perfect. We'll have a hard time, you know, to get away from underneath this. And so the nobility, where do they come from? Here in France, I'm sitting in Strasbourg, in Alsace, in the east of France. It's the European capital, together with Brussels. And here in France, there are still 35,000 castles to be seen. And they're all built around the year 1000. There may be one or two built in the year 800, but that's very rare. And there were some built a bit later, but most of them, they were built around the year 1000, 35,000 castles. So this implies that we don't have any French or European kings, because otherwise we would have had kings like castles. We would have had castles 6,000 years ago. But apparently, as all the castles were built like around the year 1000, there must have been an invasion by the nobility around the year 1000. So where do they come from all of a sudden? You know, this nobility, as apparently they were not there before. And actually, all the peoples in the world, we're all tribes. You know, the Africans are tribes, the American Indians are tribes, and you got the Celtic tribes, the Germanic tribes, even Jews were tribes, and the Arabs, all peoples. And then we got our masters, the nobility. And so where do they come from? Well, about 15 years ago, they found out with the genetic analysis that more than 50% of the Europeans and the white Americans, I suppose, as their origins are in Europe, they lie in Europe. 50% of the Europeans, they have pharaonic genetics. So that means 50% have nothing, and the other 50% of the Europeans, they have sometimes 2, 3, or 4% of pharaonic genetics, not very much. And people are asking themselves, and actually they really put the lid on this, they don't talk very much about it because it's very dangerous for them, because we might find out by whom we're being ruled by. And so how is this possible? You know, like in the Middle Ages, you know, there were no motorways, there were no airplanes, so there was no international communications. How the hell is this all possible? Well, it's very simple. You know, in the Middle Ages, our women got raped. It's called the jus primae noctis, the law of the first night. A young peasant girl, you know, the first night of her marriage, they dragged her into the castle and they raped her. So, like this, the lord of the castle and the nobility, they injected their pharaonic genetics into the whole of our women, if you understand what I mean. So this means that the nobility, they are pure pharaohs, you know. And this is why, like President Macron here, the first time he got elected, he went celebrating in front of the pyramid of the Louvre in Paris, because he knows exactly.
Sorry, I was going to ask you a question, if that's okay.
Can I just finish this?
Yes.
Can you?
Oscar.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. Because otherwise, I can't. You know, I'm losing the thread. Like, so. Yeah, so the pharaohs, they came here and they became the nobility, and they had an internal quarrel. They became the Knights Templars, and as the Knights Templars, they were and they still are, a military order. They needed a political wing to consolidate the power in peacetime, so they founded the Freemasons. And there, the circle is closed, and this is why the Freemasons, they all show their things, their artifacts from their ancestors, like pyramids, the all-seeing eye, Isis, Horus, because we're being ruled by the pharaohs. It's as simple as that. We're being ruled by a foreign power, you know. And actually, the European peoples, you know, I call them, well, probably not allowed to say the word, so I won't. The Europeans, they never built in stone. They build in dirt huts, like in Africa, you know, with round huts, with dirt and with shit and earth. Put some straw in it so it keep together. Maybe some twigs that fell off a tree. They were running around in a bear skin, you know, with the lance. Couldn't read nor write, just like the Africans or all the other tribes in the world. And the first ones who built things here in Europe in stone was the nobility with their castles. So they continued to build as they were used to at River Nile in ancient Egypt. So we're definitely being ruled by a foreign power. And okay, I can make a little pause. I could talk on for hours, but I'll let you ask the question, Nate.
We can't wait to hear you talk some more. Caleb, go ahead, shoot your question.
You have a actual academic background in Egyptian language. And when you mentioned the Templars, where they came from, the idea of the primogeniture, the vertical rule, meaning that only the firstborn son had the rights to his bloodline, whereas his younger siblings didn't get any rights, regardless of the fact that they were bloodline. They decided to create a horizontal rule. Now, this also has a parallel in ancient Egyptian history. From what you've said, I think, when you explained the red, white, and blue crowns of Egypt, because the red crown of Lower Egypt, meaning northern Egypt, lower down in the Nile Valley, they were, in ancient Egypt, the situation was almost similar to what you described here with the medieval times, because in those days, the red crown of Lower Egypt was the vertical rule, but in Upper Egypt and Southern Egypt, you had the white crown, and they were more like a horizontal rule. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. There never was any religious problems like the South. So Upper Egypt became monotheistic, and the North, the original Egypt, where the pyramids are, was polytheistic with many gods. But that was never the issue. The issue was exactly the internal war within Pharaoh's nobility, in between the horizontal rule and the vertical rule. And we can see the same thing going on now in the Middle East and also in the Ukraine war. Like Russia pretended to be a republic, you know, for about 10 years. Mr. Putin, I call him Mr. Lily Putin. I have absolutely no respect for the bloody liar. You know, as he said, like, no, we're not going to invade Ukraine. No, it's just a military exercise. I mean, this has been proven. He said this. You know, for me, once a liar, always a liar, Mr. Lily Putin. And so he pretended, you know, to be a nice guy, you know, to get Western scientific goodies for his missiles and everything. To sell his gas and sell his oil and everything, and make Russia a rich country. He did it for about 20 years, I think. So he pretended to be a horizontal ruler and to be a real democracy. Democracy is horizontal, but the democracy has never been for the people. The people, the communists, we just have the right to democratically rule another nobleman of Pharaoh's nobility. So, but now it became a dictatorship again, and especially, you know, with a lot of people being killed. So now Russia, after, you know, pretending to be a normal republic, it's a vertical rule dictatorship again, you know. And this is the problem, and this is something America will never allow, because they cheated, you know, the Ruskies, well, not the people, but the ones in power, which is still the nobility, you know, the Tsars and all the other Russian dukes and counts, and they have also, all countries in the world, they have a large nobility. And in the Middle East, it's the same thing. One of my last videos on my channel, Gure, I hope Nate, he will show my channels in the description under this interview, so you can all check it out and get
They'll
further
certainly be
information.
there.
Good, to get all the information right, because I can't do it in a short interview. You know, it's too complicated. So one of my last videos, I explained that, you know, Israel is a democracy. You know, but both a dictatorship and a democracy, we're still being ruled by the same guys. It's just a different type of ruling. Whether they rule together, which is horizontal, or there's only one guy ruling, like or one family, just like Mr. Putin, or like Saudi Arabia, or like Qatar. Like Qatar and Saudi Arabia, they are what we call an absolute monarchy. And England is not a monarchy at all, but England is a constitutional monarchy. So they got the constitution of the republic, the horizontal rule, and they let a little monarchy next to it, you know. And this was only possible because normally within the nobility there's only two groups, either royalists or republicans. Royalists vertical and republicans horizontal. And this is why in England, the king and the nobility, they didn't want to end up like the French one, you know, have his head chopped off by under the guillotine. And so they founded the Order of the Garter, which is a sort of a compromise in between the vertical and the horizontal rule. So this is why England became a constitutional monarchy. It's not a real monarchy. And they got the constitution of the republic. The constitution is horizontal, and the monarchy, or they left a little bit like vertical stuff in it. And that's why in England you got the House of Lords, which is vertical, and the House of Commons, which is horizontal. But they are both lords. There's no commoners in it at all, you know. And in what I wanted to tell you, excuse me.
I said that was a great breakdown of that system. You can continue.
Okay, good. Yeah, no. And the Gaza war, it's the same thing. You know, it has nothing to do with religion, absolutely nothing. And the Hamas, by the way, is an anagram for Sham, S-H-A-A-M. They are the same letters as Hamas. And that is not a coincidence. I showed that in one of my last videos, but they are like 3-hour videos or 5-hour videos. And you should definitely check it out on my channels. And what is Sham? Well, Sham is what the Islamic State, what they wanted. And Sham is the old caliphate of Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Palestine all together. 4 countries, which is called Sham. In the old days, they call it Sham. And funny enough, Hamas, they have the same letters, and they want the same thing, which is not coincidence. And caliphate, by the way, is not it's not by Allah, you know, it's not by God or something. It's not a perfect, you know, for bearded Muslim where you can be a real man and all this and be happy and it's sort of a paradise. You know? Oh no, not at all. A caliphate, you know, has a caliph on top of it. It's a feudal system, just like the feudal kings we had in Europe. It's a vertical dictatorship. And this is the problem, because Israel is a horizontal republic. And this is why America will never abandon Israel, because Israel is America's little horizontal baby. And also America can be, America is also France. France is a little horizontal baby because it all came from France. And the first horizontal rule in all history was Switzerland in 1291. and this is the base of all evil, you know. And as I've shown in my videos, even in Gaza, there are castles, you know, by the caliph and by the sheikh and all this, you know, real castles. And these guys, you know, they hadn't really made the. I mean, the Jews in Israel, they worked hard, and they made a little paradise there. And then the other ones, the Arabs and the Arab nobility, they didn't work very hard, you know. And so they got jealous, and they just want to grab it, what the Jews worked for, you know. So the vertical rule in Gaza and in Palestine, and there are loads of sheikhs and caliphs and all this, you know, sultans in Palestine and in Gaza, and their descendants are still there, like Amin al-Husseini. He was the Mufti of Jerusalem, of a royal family. And these guys, you know, they didn't work hard like the Jews did, you know. And so they find themselves now with absolutely nothing. You know, it's all deserted. You know, they have to get their money from Saudi Arabia or Qatar, you know, from the oil business, and the money finally comes from America or Europe. You know, all the Europeans who want to drive around, all the Yanks who want to drive around in a nice V8 pickup. You know, that's why that's where the money comes from in Saudi Arabia, and this money, you know, it gets transferred to the Arab nobility in Palestine and in Gaza, and they just trick the people out, you know, just letting the people believe that it's all about religion, you know, and against the Jews, and it's absolutely has nothing to do with that. All wars are wars in between the vertical rule and the horizontal rule. All wars, and also 2 world wars, which I explain in my videos, are a consequence of the internal war within Pharaoh's nobility all over the world, in between the vertical rule and the horizontal rule. Okay, maybe.
It just happens to coincide nicely with times where you need a good sacrifice, right? If you're in those circles, those occult circles. Yeah, these wars just happen to come around at the perfect time, right? To make a sacrifice to an ancient god.
I'm not really into that. I'm a historian, Nate. I do facts. I don't know about, you know, sacrifice to God. They do, you know, satanic stuff. You know, they do sacrifice, human sacrifices, and I filmed places like here in France. You know, ancient Templar commanderies. I even had to run for my life, you know, which you can see in the video. And because I found something that I shouldn't have found there. And with a human sacrifice, they mobilize demons, and these demons they use, you know, to trick us out, like in politics, or so we don't see all the secret symbols. And but I definitely don't believe that a big sacrifice, like in a war, millions of people's getting killed, that is their aim. No, absolutely not. You know, because we are the property of them, and a human being is being valued in man hours. In a lifespan, you got a certain amount of man hours, and that's the value of a human being. No more, no less. You know, for them, for the masters of Pharaoh's nobility. And actually, the German emperor, like William II, he didn't want, you know, he wanted to stay the emperor. He didn't want to have a horizontal rule in his country. So this is why the First World War started. You know, you can see the entire nobility dress up, the entire European nobility dress up in uniforms and helmets. You know, like the King of England.
I'm getting the point now. Yeah, it's all about the Pharaohs' war and the conflicts that arise from that group.
Oh, absolutely. And, all the war. Yeah. And Switzerland is their base, you know. If you look at the last year of the Crusades, and this is very important, as you can see, I do only facts. You know, you can all figure it out. You know, and prove it. And I don't like rumors. I do facts. You know. And in 1291 was the end of the Crusades. And the last stronghold of the Knights Templars in the Middle East was Acres, in French, Saint-Jean d'Acre, because the Knights Templars, they spoke French. They were born in the middle of France, in Troyes. I can show that on the map, actually. So also French is the language of the nobility. It always has been, for specific reasons. Even at the court of England, they spoke French, and they still do. The court of Prussia, the court of Russia, all over the world, French is the language of Pharaoh's nobility. This is why France has a very special status. You know, like France is the only country in Europe, in the whole of Europe, that has no American bases, because it was France that exported the revolution with Marquis de Lafayette to America. So in the 60s, the French, they said, okay, you Americans with your army and your bases, you just pick up your things and get the hell out of here. We don't want you here anymore. And no other country in Europe can do this. Only France did this, because France is where the Republic and the horizontal rule were born. And Switzerland was the country where it was accomplished for the first time in 1291. So the last stronghold of the Knights Templars was Acres, Saint-Jean d'Acre. And Acres fell on August 18, 1291. Only 2.5 months later, just the time to get back, they founded Switzerland on August the 1st, 1291. And August the 1st is their national holiday. It's their July 4th. It's the 14 Juillet, like here in France. And 1291, if you see 1291 in the internet, there are Swiss neo-Nazis that use that number, you know, to hide behind that number. As international neo-Nazis, they use the number 88 because the eighth letter, the H is the eighth letter in the alphabet. So 88, it says Adolf Hitler. And they also have 18 or combat 18, because the 1 is the A and 8 is the H, so it says Adolf Hitler. And yeah, and then only 16 years after the end of the Crusades and the founding of Switzerland, so we get to 1307, the French king Philip the Fair, he arrested the Knights Templars in France on this famous, notorious Friday the 13th. That's where it comes from, actually, the whole Friday the 13th. And so
that's also where French toast comes from.
French, yeah, okay. Okay, get you. Yeah, well, the French toast, actually, it came 7 years after that. We get to 1314 when they got burnt in front of the Notre Dame in Paris. There's a little island in the River Seine where the Notre Dame is, the cathedral that burned. And that's where the Knights Templars were burned, which is the actual center of Paris, the authentic center of Paris, where the French king had his castle. So he was looking from his castle from a window and saw the last Grand Master Jacques de Molay, how he got burned and all that. So the French toast, that happened in 1314. They got arrested 7 years before that, in 1307. And as they saw things coming their way, because it was all an internal struggle within the nobility, so there was a lot of leakages, you know what I mean. A lot of information spilling out everywhere, a lot of traitors. So 16 years only before they got arrested, you know, they founded Swaziland. And the French king, he only arrested 325. He burned about 25 or 30. But tens of thousands, they made it to Swaziland. and they made their nice Alpine utopia. And this is why later on in history, the Nazis, they were the Nazi Templars. So the hatred towards the Jews, it doesn't come from the German people. And the proof is that the Jewish language in Europe is Yiddish, which is a German language. You know? It's like 95% German with a few Hebrew words in it. And actually, for the Orthodox Jews, Hebrew is still forbidden to speak because Hebrew is only for the temples. Just like for the pharaohs, you know, the hieroglyphs are only for the temples, so the gods, they can see an image. But the real language of Pharaoh was Demotic, from which I translated a lot of words, which we find back today in our languages all over the world. If you look at the Swiss flag, which is red and white, Knights Templars colors, and it has a vertical line for the old world order, which is interrupted by a horizontal line for the new world order, the new system. So it's quite logical that the notorious Templars treasure came into Switzerland, with which they founded the Swiss banks. And the bankers have always been the Knights Templars. They were the first bankers in history. They invented the banks. They were the first multinationals in history. So, and they were not religious at all, you know. And as the French king, and most of all his state prosecutor, there was Guillaume de Nogaret, another aristocrat, very intelligent guy, very dangerous. And he said, the Knights Templars, they're Satanists and Sodomites, we must burn them alive. And he didn't lie. I mean, and we can see it happening today, you know, Jeffrey Epstein, children disappearing, all this evil stuff going on, blood sacrifice with children, and this is all because of the Knights Templar who founded the Freemasons, who were in all key positions. So both the occultism of the Nazis and the hatred towards the Jews, it's not from the German people, but it all came out of the Knights Templars. So the Nazis, they were actually the Nazi Templars. And if you look at the Iron Cross, you know, the Nazis have around their necks, it's a Templar's cross. And it was a war against Germany, against the Europeans. And it all originated out of Switzerland, which is the base of it all. It's the base of Pharaoh. All the money is in Switzerland. All the banks in the world are Swiss banks. Even the Bank of England is a Swiss bank. And they had numerous directors of the Bank of England who were Swiss. You know, and one was of the family of Elon Musk, which is the Haldeman family. So you can look it up yourself. I think it was in the 19th century. There was the director of the Bank of England, was a Haldeman, like Bob Haldeman in America, you know, the guy who triggered the biggest political scandal in the entire US history, the Watergate scandal. It was Bob Haldeman.
What is the error for people who believe that it's the jaywalkers that are in control of the banking and the monetary system?
That will take a very long time to answer that question. Well, first of all, the people are stupid. The commoners are stupid. I mean, we have to admit it. People are stupid. You know, we've got some good people like you guys there, you know, but most of them, they are animals. I have no other words, actually. I've been trying to do this with my videos for 14 years. It destroyed my life and my family. I got arrested several times by an anti-terrorist squad, you know, with guys with assault rifles and the whole thing, you know. I put the articles in my video. You can find it. It destroyed my whole life, you know, and for what? You know, most of the people, you know, they're just consumers. They say, oh, yeah, got nothing else to do. Well, let's watch this. But they're never going to change anything. So this, to answer your question, this propaganda, this anti-Jew propaganda is not by the people. The people are just too stupid. It is by our masters. And of course, the pharaohs, Pharaoh's nobility, they already had a prehistory with the Jews, and they invested a lot of energy into the Jews. As the Jews, they were the God's beloved people, you know. And I don't believe in any God, actually, because if you look in the Bible, this God who supposedly sees everything and hears everything, he never saw Europeans. He never saw Asians, you know, because the Bible stops at the Mediterranean. He never talked about France or England. We just don't exist in it. The Bible is a Middle Eastern book for the Middle Easterners. It's not for us, you know? And so who was God then? Because this God in the Bible, who didn't even see the Europeans, can't be God, in my eyes. So then who was God in these days? Well, Pharaoh was God. He was worshipped like a god. You know, he was really, everyone said he was the God, and everyone believed Pharaoh was God. And he had a beloved people. They were the Jews. And he invested a lot of energy, you know, into his beloved people. And then they ran away, you know, the Exodus, you know, crossing the Red Sea and swam to the other side or whatever, or dove to the other side, and or walked, whatever. And so there's a prehistory, and then they were in the Roman province of Judea, and then the Romans, they came, and because the Jews, they put up a good fight against the Romans, but what are you going to do against the Romans? Even the Celts couldn't do that, you know. Only the Germanics could do that, and the Dutch people in Romania, but they were not successful in the end either. Only the Germanics were. So that's what I'm hoping, that the Germanic tribes will stand up. They're the only ones in the world who can. And so because the Jews, after two Israelite Roman wars, in which the Jews really defended themselves very good, really good warriors, they knew they couldn't win. They knew if we're going to stay, they're going to kill us all. So they ran away again, you know, into the diaspora and coming into Europe, and now it's getting loud. Yeah, so, you know, they always run away. And the Jews also have a nobility, like a Rothschild. They are Baron de Rothschild. It's a nobility. So when the Jews, they ran away from Jerusalem, and they came to Spain, and then they ran away again from the Spanish Inquisition. And then they came in Germany and France and England and all over. And finally, Pharaoh got them, you know, in during the Holocaust and all that. You know, they finally got them. And so the Jewish nobility, and there are many Jewish kings like King David and King Solomon and hundreds of more in the Bible only. They suddenly found themselves without their slaves, without their commoners. And what does the nobility do without the commoners? You know, he's not going to work themselves. You know, so they ran after their slaves into Europe, and that gave a big problem with the local nobility, because all the land was already being divided. You know, into the Duke lands and the Count's lands and the King's lands and the Marquis's lands. So when the newcomers came running after their Jewish slaves, you know, the Jewish nobility, they found themselves without any land. So what can they do? Well, the only thing they could do is like money business. You know, that's where it all comes from. And this is where you get the hatred, you know, towards the newcomers by the European nobility, especially the Germanic nobility, you know, which ended finally into the Holocaust and everything. And the people, you know, the commoners are just dumb slaves, you know, who just believe all the propaganda. So to answer your question, you know, where does it all come from? You know, the hatred towards the Jews. Well, it comes from Pharaoh. Simple as that. And Pharaoh, you know, it's nobility nowadays. It's Pharaoh's nobility. But no, finally they have their country, but the country doesn't belong to the people. It belongs to Pharaoh's nobility. Even Rothschild, they say it themselves, Israel is our foundation, it's our creation, it belongs to us. And they're not lying, And it all started with the Balfour Declaration, because they knew if it goes on like this, the German emperor, he was really patient for hundreds of years, but they just didn't want to go. And all of a sudden it was enough, And then the other nobilities, like in England, and they put them under so much pressure that it ended up in 2 world wars, which are wars in between the vertical and the horizontal rule, and with those Jews in between it. So I've got nothing against.
The Jews got lumped in with the witches during the medieval age, and got sort of the same treatment as the witches. Can you speak on the witch hunts a little bit?
Yeah, sure. First of all, as I told you,
These are great questions, Caleb. Sorry, go ahead.
As I told you, for Pharaoh's nobility, the human value is being counted into man hours in a lifespan. Like what is it, 76 years, or 65 years, because it's like until you retire in general. And so as the Jews, and in those days they were all Orthodox Jews. There were no other ones. They were all Orthodox guys, And and with the Orthodox Jews, the men, they don't work, so there's no man hours. They study the Torah, the Bible, their Bible, or the Old Testament the whole day. Like doing like this the whole day, shaking everything, do the shake. And so there's no taxes to be grabbed by Pharaoh's nobility. They can't parasite on them. For those Orthodox Jews, until this very day, it's only the women that work. And this gives a very big problem nowadays in Jerusalem. They don't want to go in the army, they don't want to work, they just want to study. And it's a big problem in Israel, actually. So there was no value, to keep these slaves. So why not burn them? Why not kill them? And why did they? That was the main reason for burning some of the Jews. For the nobility, they have no value. They don't work for the nobility. They can't parasite on them. They just study their damn book all day long in the eyes of the nobility, right? Pharaoh's nobility. So, and why did they burn the women? Well, there was the jus prime noctis, the right of the first night, or the law of the first night, where they raped our women. And many of our women, like Budiga, the Celtic warrior, probably, many of our women, that bastard he raped, I hate them, So Pharaoh's nobility in Europe, they couldn't do any more or anything with those women. They knew these women hated them. The women,
We'll appear to be having some trouble with your signal there. It's a really exciting interview. I'm loving this. I just want to make sure that you're coming through loud and clear.
Is it okay now?
It was going a little bit frayed there for a second, but we're good.
Okay. So, a woman is like a little birdie. She needs a nest to put her eggs in, warmth and food for the little ones. And so this makes her very pragmatic. Most women are exceptions, of course.
How long do you think this custom's been going on? By the way, do you think this has been going on since all the way back to ancient Egypt? Who was the first one who did this? Pharaoh Akhenaten. Can you make any comments on Pharaoh Akhenaten?
Well, look at Prince Andrew. I mean, they're still doing it, raping our women. They're still doing it. It's still going on. And look at Dutroux, in Belgium, bringing all the whole Belgian royal house. They were involved in all the kidnapping of the children and all that. And look at the Saudi Arabia, Qatar, where they have harems and women disappearing. It's still the same thing, And they always did it. It's from Pharaoh's times and it goes on. We're just slaves to them. We are slaves. So most of the women, they got raped in the castle, and they said, okay, well, okay, he raped me, but you know, afterward it was okay, you know, it was nice and smooth. He treated me like a prince, not like my English peasant, you know, who was burping and farting the whole day and swearing. I got some wine, I got a nice dinner, I could take a bath, you know, so I got treated like a princess in the castle for 3 days, you know. So don't you guys think that these two, they made an alliance? You know? And look at it nowadays, you know, if you get divorced, you know, she gets all the children. A man is just there, you know, to shut up and to work, you know, pay taxes and work. We men, we don't have any rights other than to die on a battlefield. And then they even come with, oh, we women, you know, we are the victim of physical aggressions. I mean, who's dying on the battlefield, ladies? It's the men dying on the battlefields. It's a war against masculinity anyway. They're making pink list killers out of our children. And I say pink list killers because I can't say the other word probably, you know, it gets all censored. And because I'm pink listed, and pink is like the favorite color of them, and so I go on. And I saw them, you know, you can see them in the internet with pink T-shirts where it says "kill and murder the."
Last time you were talking to Roseanne, and I believe you mentioned Saint Maurice. Did he have anything to do with the law of the first night?
Saint Maurice. Oh yeah, probably they all do. There are no saints, you know. It's the same. All the saints are butchers, like Saint George with his dragon, you know, and Saint Michael. They're all murderers. Even the mafia, they believe in Saint Michael. You know, it's the same as the whole medieval saint business. It's the same as this peace medal for Norway. The how do you call this again? I'm forgetting the words. This peace medal. This peace medal.
Nobel Peace
Yeah,
Prize.
the Nobel. Yeah, the Nobel Peace. So this whole Nobel Peace thing is the same as the medieval saints, and they're all butchers anyway. Obama is a butcher, you know. He sends so many more airplanes to Iraq to bomb everybody, to bomb the hell out of everyone there, you know. And yeah.
Talk about the Malleus Maleficarum. That was sort of written towards the later days of the witch burnings, but I'd never known that it was written by Swiss guys.
Yeah, there was
a couple of Swiss guys.
Heinrich Kramer wrote the Malleus Maleficarum. In English, it's called the Richest Hammer. And Jacobus Sprenger. One was from Basel, and the other one from Mulhouse, which belonged to Switzerland in those days. And they wrote this Richest Hammer, which was the manual. I read it actually. I read it in English. It was written like 500 years ago. It was the manual how to torture, how to burn, and how to extract information. You know,
You said that like you were unimpressed with the book.
No, it's an interesting book. You know, it's horrible. I'm not unimpressed, but I know it's all a lie. It all has to do with the fact they burned the women. It didn't have anything to do with religion. No, nothing has up to today. There are no religious wars. It's all about inner nobility wars, most of all in between the vertical and the horizontal rule. And they just burned the women, those women who hated the king for being raped. No, they hated the whole nobility because they got raped. They had a, so this is why we don't have any more good women in the Western world. No? All the good women they have all been killed. You know? Now we only got those women who made the alliance with the masters, and the men have more slaves than the women. You know? And our boy children. And I understand that our Muslims are fed up with that, but they're not doing the right thing, and they don't want to listen. They think they're so. I talk to Muslims here in France. I speak French, and they all think they know everything better, and so they don't even listen. They're very loud and aggressive if I say something, and it's not even used. It's no use talking to them because they don't listen. They don't want to understand what's really going on, which will be their downfall in the end, definitely. Now it looks like we're being overrun by Muslims, but this will be their downfall. They don't want to understand who the real enemy is, and the enemy is not the Jew. They're actually cousins. They're both Semites. They're both Semites.
Some of these people who believe that it's the jaywalkers controlling everything also believe in a theory that says that the jaywalkers who are in charge originate from the Khazarians. And that theory has been shot down by one of the researchers named Michael Dasarian. He shows how that's not the case whatsoever. But who are the Khazarians, and is it possible that there is something going on with that?
That's all nonsense. I translated it into the pharaonic demotic language, and Ka, as in Khazaria, Ka is the soul when you're alive. The Ba is the soul when you die. And Sar, like in Khazaria, Sar, it means the king, like in a sarcophagus, or like Caesar, the king of Rome, or the Tsars in Russia, or King Charles, his official title is Sar, which is an abbreviation of Son Altesse Royale, His Royal Highness. French is the language of the nobility. Or like Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. So Khazar, it means the souls of our kings are there. It means Pharaoh is here. And actually, the pharaohs, they always circumcise their slaves. Like the Jews, they were the slaves of Pharaoh or his beloved people, but still they are the slaves. That's why they were circumcised. And anyway, if you believe in a creator or in a creation, you're not allowed to mutilate God's creation and cut a chunk of God's creation out of the body. You just can't do it. So all these 1 billion Muslims and also the jaywalkers, which is another word for Jews, because it's not allowed many times to use the word Jew. So this is why I came up with another name for the Jews in my videos. I call them jaywalkers. J for Jews or Judea, and walkers because I always walk away or run away. I also call them Pharaohs. I've got nothing against these people, by the way. And so being circumcised, so we got 1 billion non-believers, all the Muslims. I mean, the fact that they cut off a big chunk of the sexual organ makes them non-believers, so they don't believe in God's creation anymore, or Allah's creation. So it's really a satanic thing, the whole thing. Or like they're being slaves. They're slaves. Both the Muslims are slaves of their nobility, like in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the Emirates and all this. And also for the jaywalkers, the Holy Book says so that they were the slaves. And this is what Pharaoh did with the slaves. Pharaoh circumcised them, and the circumcision is, for a normal, healthy man who's not circumcised, I was in very dirty places in my life, and I was so happy that I have that foreskin, so the dirt wouldn't come in. And the evil ones, they turn it all around and they say, it's good, for hygienic reasons, the circumcision. No, it's not, because the foreskin is there for the hygienic reasons, that the dirt doesn't come in. it's been created like that. And for a normal, healthy man, you know, if there's no foreskin, it means it's in an erection. And we all know what happens, you know, when the foreskin is gone, you rub it a little bit over it, you know, it gets all big, you know, it gets all roused. So, like,
Looks like we've lost you again, Sean. Looks like someone doesn't want us talking about this subject. I didn't realize foreskin was such a touchy topic. You're back, bro.
They actually
Go ahead,
cover
continue.
men under a ton of clothes because they have absolutely no control over their sexual lives because the foreskin is gone. It's like Aladdin's lamp, you know, you rub a little bit over it and the genie comes out of the box, so to speak. You know? And that's
it's a deep wound, especially for such a young baby. It affects their trust for the rest of their lives in the world that's around them. It affects the way that they interact with other people. Go ahead, man. Sorry, we lost you for just a second.
Okay. So you didn't record the last bit, huh?
We've got the whole thing.
The video's gone on your side, Sean, but the audio seems to be better now.
You're free to continue, man. This is some great stuff. We are here to talk and listen to your story.
Yeah, maybe it's meant to stop, and I'm getting tired. I mean, it's
yeah, man. No, that's no problem.
Also,
we can
my whole
pick this up another time.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to the audience on your way out?
Oh, no, there's something. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, that's a good question, Caleb. What would I like to say to the audience? I would like to ask you, things are going to get really bad soon. And what do you want? Do you want to die on your knees, or do you want to die standing up? There's no other choices. No. And I want to die standing up. So Nate and Caleb will leave my email under the video, and it's also in all of my channels. I've got 4 or 5 YouTube channels. I've got a French channel, German, and a couple of English. And if there's any real warriors around, I was in a couple of wars myself in Afghanistan, and when the Ruskies were there, in Angola, Namibia with the SADF, South African Defense Force. I was in Rhodesia, which has another name nowadays, but we don't say the other name, we say Rhodesia. And yeah, so I was in a couple of, I was in a famous regiment. And so if there's any real warriors amongst you, or any guys or girls who want to be a warrior, let's team up and come to France, come and see me. We get some training going, and we try to set up a resistance. This is what I wanted to say to the audience.
Don't be pussies.
Okay, Caleb. So I see you next week in France then.
Paperwork problems.
I know. Yeah.
I just like to recommend to everybody that they go and watch the Pharaoh show, which I wanted to get into a little bit more. And it shows you through the language of symbolism on the architecture of these castles and stately homes, their coats of arms, just how far this goes back. And I confirm that it goes back to ancient Egypt. And these people have knowledge of the symbols and how to disguise them well enough so that they appear as Templar symbols. So I definitely recommend that everybody goes and watches that, because it's a fantastic documentary. He did it in he recorded it in 2 languages. I'm going to put a link to that in this video. Thank you, Sean, for coming on.
I did it in 3 languages: German, French, and English. Yeah, and I would like to recommend the Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil, and there are 14 parts, starting on my channel Giureh. It's Giureh. The Swiss Beast, Home of the Devil.
Thank you, guys.
No problem, man.
Yeah, good to know you guys. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye.